Okay, we are live. Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm here today with my friend Tiwanda, and we're just going to have a conversation and invite you to listen in on it. And before we get started in that, I'm going to take a second real quick to share this to my other Facebook page. Tiwanda, if you want to share it too, you can go ahead and do that if you can find it on the... on... Well, it's not showing up.
I was going to say, I don't see it.
Wait a minute. I'll refresh the window and we'll see. It says we're live.
It does say we're live.
Yeah, I'm new to this technology, everybody. So thank you for giving me grace as we work through these things and figure this out. And of course, my window is taking forever to refresh right now. Okay. There it is. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and share this over and I can tag you in it.
Awesome. Okay, that'd be perfect.
And then you'll have access to it to share it with your people too.
Beautiful.
And I guess my computer just goes slower when I'm trying to go live and share at the same time. Sorry, forgive me for that.
Well, this is that awkward time where you work out all the kinks and...
Yeah.
The first one's always...
Right. Okay. So there, I did it. Excellent. Okay. So welcome, everybody. This is our first episode of this podcast of Every Voice Matters. And before we get started, listening to Tiwanda and her story, I just wanted to share a little bit of my heart. Recent events in our history in the current events of things that are going on have just really been troubling to me and really torn me up on the inside. And I've been doing a lot of educating of myself, doing a lot of reading. I want to do a lot of listening with compassion and with understanding. And I've had some conversations like this before where I lived in another base. There was an issue in the news at that time. And I invited some friends of mine from my Bible study out to lunch. And I said, just tell me what you want to tell me. And they just shared just stories of their life with me. And it had such an impact on me, especially as a mother, telling the stories about the mother and how they felt about their adult sons. And it was just really powerful. And I want to have more of those kind of rich conversations, and I want to be able to share them with other people. And so I've invited 6 of my friends to come online and to just talk with me and share with me. And I just want to listen. I want to hear. I want to learn new things, and I invite you to listen with us and to share. And so every day this week at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a different person. And then after that, it'll be every Friday at 1 o'clock. And I was just telling my friend, I'm here with no agenda. I really just want to show up and say, I'm done being quiet about it. I'm done just, I'm not causing problems. I want to be part of fixing it. I want to be part of the solution. And as I prayed about it, I felt like this is what God said. This is what's available to me. And this is how I'm showing up to say, hey, I want to help make a change. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Tiwanda. We met just here recently since I've been at this base with a military spouse podcast that we have been working on. But she is retired Air Force, just retired almost a couple of years ago after 25 years?
25.
25 years. That's a long time. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today. I know it takes courage. Even just to get on Facebook video, that takes a lot of courage for me. But we're not necessarily talking about an easy topic, and that's right. It's a challenge. So I applaud your bravery and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It is odd because I'm the first. Yeah. Yes. So
you're the first
I hope I'm able to get across, what's on my heart, and I hope that I pray that this conversation is the beginning of many fruitful and educational conversations. And when I saw that you wanted to do this, I knew that I wanted to be a part of it because of how things weighed on me. And when things happened, this is an outlet. This is an outlet because otherwise, sometimes we feel we have no voice.
Right.
And um, I'll probably get into it later, but I think that's what's happening out there in the world right now. People want a voice and
Right.
they want to be heard, and this is their way of expressing what they're trying to say. And I'm in awe, and I'm amazed at it not just being those people, it's not just people of color that are out there expressing. It's our brothers and sisters of other colors, other races, other ethnicities. It's just amazing. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing and I'm trying to move it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it has been neat to. I've noticed that, in the protests and in the thing, it's not just all people with one skin color, and
Mhm.
I, I really, as hard as all this is, and I've just really been struggling. I've I've watched some videos, I've read some things that really just, my reaction is I just want to throw up. I just feel so disgusted and so sick by some of the things that human beings do to other human beings. And but I feel like this is, as a catalyst, and I'm hopeful that we can do better. We can change. And as a mother, of course, I'm focused too on the next generation and on how can I
Right,
instill in them to be better. Um,
right, right. I see the change. I definitely see the change, and I see the difference between now and back in the 60s. I
mhm,
definitely see the difference. What I don't want to happen is another 40 years
mhm.
to come, and in order for us to see more change.
Right. We need to
I
pick up
don't
the pace
want
on this.
Right. We just need to You wouldn't have seen all nationalities and all races and all nations coming
Mhm,
together to support one movement. You wouldn't have seen that back in the 60s.
mhm,
I don't I Wow, with what we see right now, I don't anticipate having this issue 40
mhm,
years later.
mhm,
However, there will be pockets.
mhm.
Um, I believe racism is ingrained in people based on their forefathers, their grandfathers, their great grandfathers who are still living.
Mhm,
I read a story about the young lady, her name escapes me, the young lady who was integrating public schools back in 69, between 69 and 72.
mhm,
And she's 65 today.
mhm,
She's still living. And so are the people who were spitting on her and throwing things at her. And I was thinking, well, if she's still alive, so are those people that were doing those things to her. And what are they teaching their
mhm,
family members?
mhm.
Um, I was, well, in 72, I was just born. So, and my sister was born in 69. So we were born into that era.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that I can say I don't know what it was like, but I know that my mom knows. My mom
Right.
experienced it. My grandmother experienced it.
Mhm,
So those are things that are on my mind as far as how far we've come, what
mhm,
people have seen, what people have not seen. Um, the week that this all happened, I think I explained to you earlier, I was just heavy. I was heavy, heavy, heavy in my spirit.
mhm,
And being that I actually suffer from PTSD from other issues,
mhm,
um, I think it really, really affected me. I did my best not to watch the video.
mhm.
I didn't want to watch the video, but it
Yeah.
was everywhere. And it
Mhm,
was everywhere. And every time you turn around, it popped up. So one day I just happened to be, it was in the background and I was kind of not trying to watch it, but I watched it. And I think what sits with me and resonates the most to me is watching this. poor young man pass away in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
That was it brought tears to my eyes because I'm thinking millions and millions of people watched George Floyd die. They watched the life pull out of him.
Mm.
And I have sons. I have sons that are adults that don't live with me, that are in other cities. And that resonated with me. It resonated with this was somebody's son, this was somebody's brother, somebody's uncle. I don't want to learn about something that happened to one of my family members off of a video on television. I don't want everybody in the world seeing my loved one killed in such a manner with such disregard for his life at that moment. For people that are sworn to uphold the law and do no harm, did harm to this man. And people that were around wanted to help, but felt helpless because these people that are sworn to protect and to serve weren't allowing anyone to help. My oldest son is in San Antonio, where some of the marches and the protests were very, very prevalent. And he says, "Hey mom, have you been out? Have you been protesting?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going out there. I'm not getting ready to protest. I don't have it in me. I don't have I'm worn out. I just can't. Not that I don't want to. I'm with everybody that's out there. I just know that me and my PTSD and my anxiety won't let me do it." And he says, "Well, I'm going." And that was probably one of the worst feelings. He says, "Well, I'm going." And I said, "You don't want to do that. You know, people are out there." At the time in San Antonio was doing their protesting, there were people out there starting riots and looting, and cops were in full riot gear, and in my opinion, waiting for the next person to step out of line, or at the time tensions were really, really high between cops and protesters, and all someone had to do was be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And for us, and when I say us, I mean people of color with my sons, to me, I feel like you don't have to have done anything wrong. You just need to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Somebody next to you, or one of your friends, or somebody that thinks that you're with them, could do something, and next thing you know, you're caught up in something. And I said, I can't, you're an adult. I can't tell you not to go, but I will tell you that it bothers me. It worries me. I'm upset if you go out there. I'm going to be worried about you. When I text you, you better check in. You better respond to me. When you get home, you better let me know that you're home. And he's like, "Mom, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how old I get. I don't care. You're still my son, and I'm still going to worry because right now you're in a target audience, period."
That's the part that really can resonate with my heart as another mother. I haven't experienced racism. I have the privilege of having white skin, so I don't have firsthand experiences. But when several mothers have shared with me similar things of fear for their young adult sons, and I've got a young adult son too, and I can engage. That's when people speak like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm horrified. I was with a kind of a discussion panel this morning that our base was doing, and there was a young man there who was sharing, how cops pulled him over and searched his car and all these different things. And we talked about, I have sons too. And I just came home and just hugged my little boy, my little 8-year-old, I still have a little one, but that
imagine how you feel when you can't come home and you can't come home and hug your little boy.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, my oldest one is in the Marines, so
right.
I hear what you're saying when you lose that control to, okay, I can't tell you what to do, but
What do you do? And I asked him what was his main reason for wanting to go out, and he said his son. You know, he's got a son, and his son is of mixed race, and he says, here's a whole nother subject. Who's going to teach him these things that he needs to know? Because you know his mother is on the Caucasian side, and so he's like, they're not going to teach him that. They can't teach him that. They can't teach him something that they haven't experienced. And I said, well, I understand, and I know you're trying to make the place a better place for your son. So I can't argue with that. I'm trying to make the better place for my son. I can't argue your reasonings behind what you're doing. I can only ask you to please be careful.
To pray. That's all.
All I can do is pray and cover him from here, and I'll give it to God and let God do the rest. But I know that, you know, I learned that tragedy doesn't skip over, you know, families.
Right.
And all I can do is put it in God's hands as far as my children go. But I personally, I call myself a unicorn. I served in the Air Force for 25 years, and I didn't experience any blatant racism. I expected to, as a female, for one, as a woman of color, for two, as a female woman of color in a leadership position, was very interesting. It was very interesting. I thought, and a lot of people ask me this. A lot of people ask me, did I experience any kind of issues with being a female in a leadership position? And or did I experience any issues being a Black female in a leadership position? And I said, honestly, I don't recall experiencing anything that stood out to me that said, you know what, it's because I'm a female, or it's because I'm a Black female, or it's because I'm Black. If I had to choose between one or two, it would be I got more resistance as a female than I did as a Black female.
I heard the same thing from an active duty person this morning. I find that I used to be active duty too, and so I can identify with the gender part of it very well. But yeah, so do you feel like there's a difference between, like, in the military communities versus out of the military communities, or you know, like active duty versus not? Is there?
I do. I think, oh wow, it's a catch-22 with me, because the military, or should I say the Air Force, from my experience, has done very, very well in saying color does not exist here. Gender does not exist here. However, I feel like I may have been I can't think of the word. I may have been cushioned too long, because looking outside of the military and how people act outside of the military, and discovering the racism outside of the military, and the things that people call each other outside of the military, I was very, very shocked and confused. I'll use my husband as an example. He was not military, and he came into the military, or we've been married for 5 years now, and he had a different mindset than what I did. And I remember having a conversation with him about, hey, you know, we don't use those words amongst each other. We're brothers and sisters amongst each other. We don't see color amongst each other, because he was saying, you know, you've got these friends, you got so many friends, and, you know, they're all races, and they're, you know, everybody treats each other the same, and everybody's so respectful. And I said, because we don't see differences in each other. And he had never experienced that, being
Mm.
from, San Antonio and being, not military. He was like, wow, this is actually really good. So
Mhm.
he learned a lot about our culture as far as um, diversity and inclusion.
Mhm.
And when we look at, I do know now, don't get me wrong, I do know it does exist.
Yeah.
From being a recruiter, I was a recruiter at one point, and I personally saw it. We pick up people from all walks of life,
Mhm.
with all kinds of histories, with all kinds of backgrounds. We pick up a monicum of people from the streets, and we put them in these uniforms, and we tell them, now you don't act this way, and you don't say
Mhm.
these things, and you must do these things. But we also know that when they take those uniforms off, that they have lives
Mhm.
outside of the military. So I don't want to get I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I'm ignorant to what's going on out there.
Mhm.
I know that people are here. I know
Mhm.
that there are people who did not like me in a leadership position. I know that there are people who did not feel like women should be, first sergeants, or black women shouldn't be in charge of, you
Mhm.
know, a certain group of people. Um, I was the first sergeant in charge of a battlefield airman squadron, all men, all testosterone driven.
I've
um,
been thinking maybe part of the solution is if we move to all female police force, there'll be a lot less testosterone going.
you know,
I don't know that that's a viable option, but that was one thing I thought of when I was watching that
right?
movie.
Just a it was amazing to be a female in charge of a squadron full of males,
Mhm.
who treated me with respect. I've never been treated with more respect than being in that squadron. We had some things happen in that squadron that were devastating to us, and the that squadron came together and supported me and loved on me and made sure that I knew that I was important to them, and they wanted to keep me around, and they were like, you know what, you're always, wow, your bravery. And we just I didn't feel like it was a woman thing. I didn't feel like it was a black woman thing. I felt it was she's our leader.
Mhm.
She's doing her job, and she does it well, and we respect her for that.
Mhm.
That's what I get from our
Mhm.
military brothers and sisters. Um, and I can only say that about the Air Force. I've not experienced any other branches, but I do hear
Mhm.
that it is different and it is prevalent in other branches. But the Air Force has done a stand up job in making
Mhm.
sure that we are at least um, feeling like we're all equal, and we are all inclusive
Mhm.
and diversity. And over the past week, I've seen more conversations like these.
Mhm.
And I think that they need to happen. We have to have these conversations. It is easy to not talk about it, just shut down
Mhm.
and not talk
Yeah.
about it. And I go my way and you go your way. But one of the things that I found in these conversations that I've seen that were happening across the squadrons, across the nation, from top down, from top leadership down, people's eyes were opened.
Mhm.
I've heard more people say, I can't live what you live. I can't experience what you experience. And I didn't know
Mhm.
that it was that bad. I didn't know that you felt that way. I
Yeah.
didn't know that these things go on. I've seen conversations where you have, black men who are saying, I don't know how to feel when I drive at night.
Mhm.
I don't know how to feel when I drive, period. I don't know, even though I'm an upstanding citizen and
Mhm.
I have, we'll take
Not doing anything wrong.
yeah, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm an upstanding citizen. I don't have a weapon in the car. I'm just going from point A to point B. I'm getting off work. It don't matter if I have a suit and tie on.
Mhm.
But God forbid if I don't wear a suit and tie,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, am I going to make it home safely if I get pulled over? If I get pulled over and someone asks for my license and registration and assumes something else, you want to search my car. You want to search my car for what? Because you assume that I have drugs in my car. It's so disheartening to see what our fellow brothers and sisters, and I say brothers and sisters, have to go through, because it's not just the males.
Right.
It's not just males. When you look at what happened to Sandra Bland, who got pulled over for a turn signal.
Yeah.
When you look at the young lady who was killed in her sleep for the no-knock, Brianna. Wow, you know, it happens. And why does it happen to us? You know, are these things happening to people of other color? Yeah, they are. But they're not as prevalent. They're not as much. They're not as many.
So what kind of difficult conversations have you had to have with your sons, you know, raising them or as they became adults, you know, about these kind of issues? I've been hearing that there's a lot of conversations that unfortunately Black parents have to have with their kids that white people have the luxury of not ever thinking about. It doesn't cross my mind. So can you speak to that a little?
Have you seen the young man's article where he says, these are 16 rules my mother taught me?
No, I haven't.
About driving. And those 16 rules, I can't think of all 16, but they were simple things like, if you get pulled over, always keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't drive around, and don't go out in public with a do-rag on. Don't go out in public with a wife beater or a tank top on. When you're shopping, and this happens with me too, and I tell my son, and like, when you're shopping, keep your hands out. Don't reach in your pocket for your phone. Don't reach in your pocket for your keys. Don't be shopping and touching everything that you see. Because
I heard that from another woman too. She was like, if I need to get something out of my purse, I go over and stand by a worker at the store, and I dig in my purse right in front of them. And like, that's something I never thought of in all my life. You know, and it grieves me to know that people do have to think about those things. That's not right.
Yes.
It should be that way.
I've got my phone in my purse. I don't want to reach in my purse and grab my phone if it's ringing. And when I'm finished, I stick it in my back pocket, because I don't want to put it back down in my purse, because I don't want any, and this is me, this is not just, you know, this is how most people feel. I don't want anybody thinking that I put something in my purse, because the minute that I walk towards, you know, have I been followed in stores? Absolutely. Absolutely. They try to look inconspicuous, but they're following me from one row to the other to see what, and at this point I'm very cautious and I'm very cognizant of what's happening. And so I make sure that either I'm on the phone with somebody in case something happens, or my hands are always seen. Or, you know, every now and then I'll look at that person and say, hey, how are you?
Can I help you?
Let's address the elephant in the room, which is, you don't have to follow me, but I get it, because that's what you were told, and that's what you know, but it sucks. It sucks to have to be that way. And there's a I don't know if you've seen it, there's a gun store down the road off of Berkeley, and big old sign on the side of the door that says, pull up your pants before you come in. Who is that? Who do you think automatically that's geared?
Who's that aiming at exactly?
You know what I mean? Pull up your pants before you come in. You know, when we all realize that all races wear their pants below their butt, or you know, underneath their waist or whatever. However, when we look at that sign, we know and we feel, you know what, that's definitely geared toward us. It's there. sometimes there is just no conversation to be had about it because it's almost as if we know our place. We know where we are in society. We know where people view us in society. Um, second rate citizens, you know, are we ever going to have the freedoms and the ability to be as free as our brothers and sisters, as our white brothers and
Mhm.
sisters? No, it's
But
not.
that's one thing that's been eye-opening to me in my as I've been educating myself more. I was familiar with the history of like the slave trade, and I got the gist of the Civil War, but I've been really studying 100 years, a whole century from the end of the Civil War to the 1960s civil rights movement,
Mhm.
where the highest law in our land said that former slaves, African Americans, were free. They had all due process of the law. If they're male anyway, they had the right to vote.
Mhm.
All that was in the law, but it was a century before anybody actually experienced that. And
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
so on one hand, I go, okay, we're making progress. On the other hand, I'm like, it is too slow. We need to. There's no excuse for this. We need to pick up the pace and fix this.
Like I said in the beginning of the conversation, it's been 40 years to get to where we are.
Yeah.
And we are better. We absolutely are better. However, my prayer is in 40 years this we don't have to have these conversations because I mean our cultures are intermingling
Mhm.
and we are becoming, and like I said, you see people of all nations and all races coming together right now where you wouldn't have seen that 40 to 60 years ago.
Mhm.
Now you're seeing it, and my prayer is that we eradicate those who still have that mindset
Mhm.
are going to go by the wayside, or they're going to realize that they become the minority in their thinking.
Yes.
And I want them to become the minority in their thinking. And we all know racism is taught. It is
Mhm.
not inbred. It is not an innate experience in these babies, these children. They love
Mhm.
anybody who loves
Oh, yeah.
them. They're loving on whoever is
Mhm.
older than me. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's taught. And if the more we have people who unteach,
Mhm.
the better we're going to be. But it's not going to come soon enough. Like you said, it needs to come sooner.
Mhm.
My fear and my concern is it's not going to be soon enough. I'm thankful that we're not living in the era that my mom, my grandmother had to live in. But when we look back at today, when my grandchildren are in their 20s and they look back on today, they're going to see what we feel like we're looking back on
Yeah.
then.
Mhm.
Um, Now, of course, the big concern is the Confederate flag and the Confederacy and what it stands for and so forth and so on, and pride and a flag and so forth and so on. I don't really get into those things
Mhm.
because I digress. I'm going to go back. My
Okay.
husband and I first moved to North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina,
Okay.
so I am very aware of what happens in North Carolina and certain places and things to avoid in North Carolina. My husband, of course, was oblivious. He's from San Antonio, where it's a melting pot. Everybody's everybody. So
And they
we
have
were
the
coming
best tortillas
from
there.
right. We were coming from Raleigh once, and we took some back roads trying to get to the highway. It was our first time coming in through this highway, and we ended up. I can't even imagine where we ended up, but it was very, very clear. There were Confederate flags flying. There were, I mean, this was in the daytime.
Mhm.
Like every other house had a Confederate flag. There was a biker gang like in the corner at this at this little corner store, and of course they had their Confederate flags on their bikes, and here we are driving through this area, and we don't know where we're going, so we're not speeding through, but we're also not like going really slow. We're like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
But that's the first time my husband had experienced something like that. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was like, yeah, babe, some places you can go, some places you can't. I told him the history of Smithfield. You know, we love going to outlets. We love going shopping, but we're out of certain areas before dark. You know, we're back home and settled in before dark. It's we live in a pretty good neighborhood. We live in a really nice neighborhood, and we have I want to say we have a really nice house. It's a house on the lake and so forth and so on. You should have seen the looks that we got when we moved in.
Really?
Yeah, you should have seen the looks that we got when we moved in. People didn't expect for us to have a house like this, to have such a beautiful house on the lake, and it's large, and those are the kind of things that we experience to this day. It's not blatant. It's not out there. It's not explicitly.
But it's still hurtful. It's still
hurtful. It's still sad. It's the FedEx guy that comes up and rings the doorbell to drop off a package, and I go to the door and open it, and he does a double take. You know, why? Why would you do a double take if a white person answered the door?
Probably not.
Probably not, because that's what you expected when you rang the doorbell. You know, so needless to say, you know, we worry about. We had friends over. We had white friends, we had black friends, we had all kinds of friends over, and some cops were driving down the street, and they kind of slowed down. And in our thoughts, in our minds, we were like, you know what? They probably think this is their house and not ours.
Oh.
It's I'm laughing because it's not funny, but it's ironic. The way that we have it's an everyday something. It's something every single day. And unfortunately, it's become our norm. It's become the way that we are used to having to live. And I honestly couldn't tell you what it's like on the other side. I would love to be able to tell you, I feel like you. I don't feel like I worry when my son goes and drives. Or if he called me and told me, hey, Mom, I just got pulled over. There's a cop behind me. I don't have to say, okay, keep me on the phone. Leave the phone on. Put the phone on speaker. Put the phone on video.
Yeah.
I would love to know what it feels like to do that. When we have to teach our sons, if you get pulled over, you need to put your phone on record, or you need to call somebody so that somebody's on the other end of the phone so that we can hear what's going on with you.
Yeah. And that shouldn't be necessary, but that breaks my heart to hear stories like that.
It is. And as a Black mom, you pray that you're not getting that phone call next. You pray that your family is not the next victim of hate. You pray that your family or your sons or your husband is not the victim of the next, George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, or it's just unfortunately, like I just said, it's become the norm for us, and to live in fear every day. I think my husband went out the other day, and my anxiety was just high because I told him he's a mortgage broker, and he went to close a loan, and he happened to be going downtown where they were doing some protesting. And I said, okay, I know you're going to be in the closing, so I'm not going to bother you, but I also know how long they last. So when I text and he didn't answer back, and I called and he didn't respond, and then he calls later and says, yeah, I stopped at Heroes. And I was like, look,
Yeah. I struggle with anxiety too. So not in that same context, but I'm
And
there
he's
with
like,
you, sister.
"What?" I just stopped and I said, "Listen, when we've got going on what we've got going on, and I know you're going to be downtown, and I know that I'm worried about you, and I text you and you don't answer, and I call you and you don't answer. Yes, I'm going to be serious about it because I was genuinely concerned and worried because we've got way too many things happening and too many things going on. And yeah, I know Goldsboro was great and we had a peaceful protest, but it could have turned at any moment, just like any other protests could have. And when I know that you're going to be downtown and can easily get caught up in a situation, it doesn't matter, like I said earlier, if you're wearing a suit or if you're wearing jeans and a polo shirt, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to the people who wish harm on you. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It really doesn't.
Do you feel like now with the current situation and discussions and things that are on the news, do you feel like people are listening more now to Black voices to say, hey, this is what's going on? Do you feel like people are listening more this time?
I do. I do. And the reason that I feel like people are listening this time is because they're actually telling us. I've heard more people saying, I've taken the time to actually listen and now I understand. Because originally I would blow it off because I feel like it didn't affect me or it didn't phase me or you know with this particular conversation, I've heard more people say, I am ready to listen to how you feel and what affects you. And instead of me thinking to myself, this is not a problem that affects me, therefore I can half listen, I put myself in that situation and they have the same reaction, which is the same as yours. I never imagined having to live that way. And now that I know, because I've actually taken the time to listen, I feel horrible in the fact that I haven't done as much as I could or to promote the opposite when I had the chance.
Right.
When I had the chance to listen, I blew it off because I didn't pay attention to how much it affected.
Well, and I think white people, we have the luxury of only thinking about racism when we want to. We can turn it off, and you
You
can't.
can turn it off, and it's usually not against you, so it really doesn't stand out until it's actually against you. And so that's why you have the luxury of not seeing it.
Right.
With us, it does stand out because it is against us, and it is more prevalent and it is more often. So we live in a totally different world, and we see a totally different perspective on racism because we experience it more.
Right.
Non-people of color, white people, don't experience racism in the same way unless it's reverse racism. And you don't see reverse racism that often. Things like affirmative action. This is when people feel like I've experienced racism because this person got this job because they have to hire 1% Black and, I'm qualified and this person is Black, so they get the job. That's when a white person feels offended and feels like they were racially biased or they experienced racism because now they feel it. And it's like I said,
And it's not even close to the same thing. I mean, it's I don't know. That's like a drop in the bucket compared to what white people in history have done.
Yeah.
To the population that they stole from another continent.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. I don't. Let's go into the Black Lives Matter thing. I'm not. I actually believe, yes, all lives matter. Absolutely. Every single life matters. However, the Black life right now is the one that's being targeted.
Yeah.
So
I personally get frustrated when I hear people respond, all lives matter. I'm like, that is 100% true
yeah,
and completely irrelevant. It's like,
right,
you just
right.
missed the point of the whole conversation.
And that's the example of a person who doesn't want to listen yet.
Yeah.
That's the example of the person who's not ready to listen. Because when you respond, when somebody says Black Lives Matter and somebody says all lives matter, are you listening to what is being
Yeah.
said? Are you understanding why we're saying Black Lives Matter? We're saying all lives matter. However, right now, Black lives are the ones that are in danger. And
Mhm.
so right now, let's concentrate on that. Because when American Indian lives are in danger, American Indian lives will matter. Latino lives will matter. White lives will matter. Everybody will matter. Everybody does matter. However, right now, it should, I actually believe that the saying should say, Black lives matter too.
Mhm.
Black
Yeah.
lives matter also. To me, that would have been the ideal name of the movement. Black lives also matter.
Yeah. I think it's saying that your life matters as much as mine, and your son's life is just as precious as mine. That's the message.
That's the message, and it bothers me when somebody. I mean, I will be the first to say all lives matter.
Mhm.
I'm the first to say all lives matter, but that's because I believe all lives matter in the same perspective. However, right now, Black
Mhm.
lives are the ones that should matter. I have a friend who asked the question the other day. She's a beautiful, beautiful white woman, and she says she asked the question which I totally appreciate. She says, "Hey, this is to my Black friends. I only want you guys to answer. White friends don't answer, but I want to support the Black Lives Movement. Would you be offended if I wore a Black Lives Matter shirt or put a bumper sticker on my car as a white woman? What do you think about that?" And I said, I appreciate the fact that you asked. You
Mm.
care enough to ask the question,
Yeah.
because you said, I don't want to be that person that jumps on the bandwagon of a movement,
Mhm.
but I really truly feel that these lives matter. But I also don't want, and I told her, if you want to support the movement, support the movement. We know where your heart is. We know
Mhm.
who you are as a person. I appreciate the fact that you asked first. However, don't make yourself a target,
Mhm.
which is one of the other problems. If you show your support of us, are you making yourself a target for those who don't believe in the movement? Are you going to come out of the store and your car has been vandalized or defaced because you're showing support for a movement? You have to also take that into consideration, because people don't like the movement. People don't want to hear it. They don't want to understand it. And I told her, I appreciate you asking our opinion before you just did it, because you want to support, but you don't want to show support in the wrong way.
Exactly. And that really hits the nail on the head of, several of my white friends that I've talked to
Mhm.
also are like, there's just this outpouring of compassion and of grief, but it's like, but what do I do with it?
How
And
do I do?
sometimes there's a fear of saying the wrong thing or
Right.
showing up to support in the wrong way. And,
Mhm.
we're blind to some things. We have some ignorance that we need to educate ourselves on. So it is hard to know, what do and so I prayed about it. And this is where I thought,
Mhm.
if I just listen first, I think
Right.
that will lead to greater understanding, and, that we can come alongside each other and,
Yeah.
really, we need to get this ball moving down the field
Yeah.
faster. And
And
I have hope
some
that we can do
people
it together.
some people feel like silence is the best answer. If I don't know what to say,
Mhm.
just don't say anything. Um, that's not necessarily the right answer. I love what Katie did when she asked. I love what you're doing. I've loved seeing the message you put out there and said, "Hey, I prayed about it. I need to know. I want to do what I can. I need to know what is," you ask, what
Mhm.
is the best way to support and show that this is solidarity, and you've taken the time to educate yourself. You're learning. You've looked at every aspect. You're looking at all facets of what's happening, and that's what I appreciate. Instead of being silent, using the platform that you have, using what God gave you, and you prayed about it, and you put it in the atmosphere, and God came back and said, "You've got all the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Use what I've given you. Use your platform to get out there and talk about it and show other people." And I can't wait. I can't wait to join in and listen to all of your guests this week, because I hope that they're listening now and watching now, because I'm going to apologize if I took anything that they were going to say, but I'm really interested to know what they're going to say, because every single one of us has a different perspective.
Well, and every life has a different story that goes with it, and
Every
different
life has a different
experience,
story.
and everyone's important. And that, the little tagline that I've put on the logo is "Changing hearts one story at a time."
Yes,
And
I love the tag. I love every voice matters. Every single voice matters, and the silent voice even matters. The silent voice says a lot, and it depends on if you're listening. I tell people when you pray, but stop long enough to listen.
yeah.
Stop long enough to listen to what's being told to you. Silence is golden. Silence will. That's why I said the silence in this matter can speak volumes. It can speak volumes on one way or another. And that's why the silence is killing us. If you choose to stay silent, what is it that they say? The silence, your silence equals agreement.
Yeah. Or if you're being silent, you're part of the problem, and
you're part of the problem.
I can't fix like the big problem, but but I can listen compassionately to people's hearts, and I can enter into that space with them and say, I want to partner with you. We need to do better. And so I really appreciate your willingness to come on here. I know it takes courage and boldness, and I know it's a hard time for a lot of people, but I really do appreciate your heart to come on and to share with us and to share your story. And
thank you. I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate you giving the time to listen. I appreciate you giving the time to listen, and like I said, I think it's very warranted. I'm glad that people are out there listening, and they're responding, and they're in agreement with what's happening, because that tells me people are taking the time out to listen. That's what we need. We need people to listen. We need people, and I'm not for one bit saying I want everybody to agree with me. Everybody's not going to agree with me, and they don't have to. However, be willing to have the conversation as to why you don't agree, or be willing to have the conversation and see it to fruition, to come to a happy medium, or I agree to disagree, but here's why I disagree with you.
Yeah. And my thing is, even if we don't absolutely come to agreement on anything, but we still need to love each other.
No, we don't have to agree. We're not going to agree.
Girl, sometimes I don't agree with my own self. I'm like, don't say that thing. And then I say that thing. I was like, why are you saying that thing? If I can't even agree with myself, how, we just need to love it. It's love Jesus, love people. The end. We overcomplicate it. So
I saw I see it a couple times on Facebook, and it says, if you love God, how can you hate your brother? Period. How can how can you call yourself a Christian and hate something about your brother or your sister or your fellow man? Because that's absolutely opposite of what's being taught.
Exactly.
And gosh, we just need what the world needs now is love.
Yes.
First thing that came to my mind.
Right. Yeah. Well, healing and reconciliation and restoration all comes from Jesus. So we need to get there. But thanks for coming on again. My closing question that I came up with is, you get to play Martin Luther King for a minute, and if you were
Okay.
going to say, I have a dream, and what you would like the future to look like for your children and your grandchildren, how would you finish that sentence of, I have a dream that one day, what do you think?
I have a dream that one day this will be a memory, and this will not exist. Um, I do believe that we're going in the right direction. Um, and I do believe it's going to literally die out um,
Mhm.
with the age group,
Mhm.
that the hate is going to die out with those who still believe in it.
Yeah.
And what's going to come about, my dream is that this was all in the past and it will be in history books and it will not
We
be a
can close that
part of it.
chapter. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Amen. I,
Amen.
all right. Well, thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate you being
you.
on the
I
show.
appreciate it. That was
Have a good
fun.
one.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to tune in the rest of the
Mhm.
week on
All
at
right.
1 o'clock.
Yeah. Every day this week at 1 p.m. Eastern time here on Facebook. And then after that, it'll be on Fridays at 1 p.m. So
Well, thank
just
you for taking the leap of faith and allowing me to go
yeah.
first.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is like way outside my comfort zone. And I mean, even just, I've never done a Facebook Live before ever, because it
Mhm.
just sounds terrifying to me. But this is an important topic. And I just felt God saying, girl, you got to get over yourself and just do
It's
it.
bigger than you.
It's,
It's bigger than
I can't just sit
yeah,
anymore and do nothing. This is my way of showing up and saying,
right.
hey, I'm here with my bucket. Let's put out the fire.
Yep.
So,
And I appreciate you for it, and I respect you for it, and it makes my heart just do flip-flops, because if more people would just get involved and listen, like you're opening your heart and willing to listen, I just appreciate you for it, and I want to say thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you for, it wouldn't work without you here to talk to me, obviously. But I'm hopeful that we can use the tool of the internet, and then we
Yeah,
can move it from just a conversation with you and I, which is rich and great, but we can expand that where other people can listen and can comment and can be a part of that conversation. And
mhm.
you know, I think that we can carry it forward that way. Even more people could be impacted just by you sharing your story and people being willing to.
Right. And hopefully, maybe on those Fridays, I definitely want to see what comes to fruition with the all week. But maybe on
Mhm.
those Fridays, if do a group
Mhm.
session with a
Yeah,
number of people,
we
because
could do that.
conversation, the conversation changes drastically, and the
Mhm.
dynamics change the more people and the more experiences you put
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing to see or be a part of, and
Mhm.
just to hear other people, and
Mhm.
what their thoughts are.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we'll add that into the hopper. And if you have other friends that would like to join us, or if somebody's listening to the video and you want to share your voice,
Mhm.
just send me a direct message, or hook me up with your friend or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm willing to listen as long as people are willing to talk to me. So.
I got somebody in mind. I think I don't know exactly who you have on. Well, I think I know who you have on for the rest of the week, but I definitely think you need a male's perspective.
Mhm.
You need a black man's perspective.
Mhm.
A young one. Um, because my perspective is different from the black man's
Mhm.
perspective, and they have different concerns and fears than
Mhm.
what I do.
Yeah.
So, and they have different conversations than what I have. So it would definitely be of interest to get someone
Yeah.
on. But I have
Yeah.
somebody in mind if you don't have anyone.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have one, but I do want more. I kind of started with a small, close group of friends, just
Right.
kind of put feelers out there. Because again, it's the same as your friend that asked the question about wearing the shirt. I'm like, is this
Hmm.
helpful or not? Or is this just some white girl trying to make a difference and really kind of
Right.
not just bothering people? So
No,
I,
no,
I just kind
no.
of put it out as a small group first to kind of see
Yeah.
how things went.
And I think that no matter what it is that you're doing, it's making a difference. No matter, it's even the very smallest amount of effort
Mhm,
is doing more than 90%.
mhm. Yeah.
So it's great.
All right. Well, thank you,
All right.
and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Liz. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Take care.